and George.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a bit of a different video for you, don't we? It's a Q&A style video. We were planning on doing this outside, but like our last video very much, it has been absolutely pouring down with rain. It's stopped off now, but we've got equipment and including microphones and stuff, so we don't really want to get those wet. Also, we don't want to get wet today, do we? So if you can hear that on my car, it's drips from the tree above us. We are in quite a nice ish area and I wish I could show you outside, but yeah, we've had to settle, and because we are in a pandemic at the minute, we're about to go into another lockdown. We are staying distant, therefore George is in the back, I'm in the front seat. It may look a bit deceptive, but we are.
We're a metre plus.
Yeah, usually we do this Q&A inside in our house, but we've had to settle with doing it in the car, and we're very happy to do so. Today is a very important video. Before I do get into it, if you are new here, hello lovely, my name is Jessica Porter.
Hello, lovely. My name is Jessica Porter. No, my name is George Meredith.
Are you Jessica
At
Porter?
Birdman Burnage. Just,
yeah, Birdman Burnage. George enjoys birds and he has his own channel doing a lot of that stuff, so definitely go and check that out. I'll leave a link. Yeah, George and Siobhan.
Birdman Burnage. That's not actually a Twitter name. She hates me calling her that.
I'll leave the links to their Instagram and YouTube below. But yeah, follow me on Instagram too. I am Jess Porter 283. So yeah, if you are new here, please do subscribe. I am an actor predominantly. I'm all about self-development, self-confidence, and I'm going to be setting up a life coaching business very soon, and there will be some footage on this YouTube channel about that, kind of explaining that and stuff. And if you would like a life coaching session, do get in touch to be put on the list sooner rather than later, because I can guarantee there are limited spaces and I think it's going to book up fast. So get in touch. Oh, also give me a like if you enjoy this video and any of my other content. I really appreciate that, and leave me a comment. Today's video is very important for us both. This is a Q&A and it's mainly going to be aimed at George because of the specific content that this Q&A is about. So this is important because it is a Q&A that mainly the importance and the objective of it is to raise awareness about strokes and what strokes are. Trigger warning, if, I know YouTube can often just skip, the next video can be a random video. If you have come across this video and you have experience of strokes, or your family member may have had a stroke and this is something that you haven't been able to deal with emotionally, I would say skip off this video now, don't watch it, because
we're going to talk about it a lot.
Yeah, that's what this video is about. It's all about raising awareness. There is no other intention behind this video. It was my idea to do it. I asked George if it was okay, and that is mainly because so George had a stroke, essentially. And before George had a stroke, I was living with George and I didn't know enough. I'd seen the adverts that are now not on TV anymore. So I'd seen it when I was younger, but I didn't understand what a stroke was and the effects of it, etc. So I really thought this would be a good video. As I am all about self-development and self-confidence and mentality, I think it's important that we speak about these things. And if any of you out there learn something today or may have experience around this subject matter and it's influenced you in any way, then I've done my job, and that's what I'm bothered about. So
on with the questions.
Okay, Okay, on to the questions. Before we start, just want to say that me and George are not experts at all. We don't work for the NHS. This is all just a part of our story and what we've learned from it.
Based on our experience.
Based on, what's really happened. So, first of all, what is a stroke?
So there's two types. You have a stroke, which is what everyone knows, or you have a TIA, which is a
Transient ischemic attack.
It is a transient ischemic attack. I don't think ischemic is how it's pronounced, but that's how Google likes to say it. So that's what I had. So it's the same thing as a stroke, it's just on a smaller scale. So the thing is, what it is a stroke is caused when the lack of oxygen or the blood supply, so therefore your oxygen supply, is cut off to parts of your brain. Right? This can be caused by faulty valves, blocked valves, blood clots, blood pressure dropping. There's lots of things that can cause it. For me, it was due to a pre-existing heart condition.
And it is true that a TIA,
Yes.
is it TIA?
Yes.
Is a mini stroke?
Yeah, some people call them a mini stroke because the thing is, there tends to be serious, long-lasting effects with a main stroke. Like people can have permanent paralysis and memory and brain damage and stuff like that. You know, you can get that with a TIA. I have a little bit of paralysis in certain parts of my face, and I still am getting used to using certain parts of my body in the same way that I used to, because they're not as quick on the reaction time as they once were because that's just the way it happens. But it does mean that things like my speech centre weren't really affected, which is one of the big things that's affected when you have a full-blown stroke, and things like your cognitive function wasn't really affected. For me, it's a physical affection I've gained from my TIA, which is more likely in a TIA from what I understand.
What we did notice though was a couple of days after it had happened, I took a Snapchat video, and you did say that you've not really been affected by your speech, didn't you? But
Yeah.
a few days later, we watched that Snapchat video back, and
I sounded drunk, didn't I?
Yeah, I sounded drunk, but at the time, I didn't notice anything. So it's just interesting that you may not, as a supporter, there was definitely effects, and there's effects now, like light sensitivity and stuff that I definitely see in George. But at the time, after it happening, I think I was just so happy for him to be back home that I didn't really, I was just kind of blinded by the fact that, oh my God, he's home, he's fine, he's not had another. But I could see the effects of the stroke looking back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So he was definitely affected by it. So that kind of leads us on to, what is your story? What happened?
Wow.
And we'll both kind of answer this from the person who had the stroke, and also from the person who was close to the person who had the stroke.
So, I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it's 6 months ago now. I know, it feels ages
Yeah,
ago.
so we haven't said that. It was
Yeah,
during
6
COVID.
months. It was during COVID. It was in April. It was on the 29th of April.
Which is a scary time. That's a scary time for you to have.
That's the thing. Like, for example, like Jessica at the time, we were staying in the same house because you just come back from Bournemouth because you work on a show. I was meant to be in Ireland with work. I was meant to be on a big project in Ireland. And so everything had gone a bit tits up for us. So we were at home, and
It's probably worth noting as well, we don't think that the stroke was to do with coronavirus.
Yes, there's no connection there. There was earlier on, there was when everything was caused by coronavirus, as everyone believed, because we knew very little about it. There was some suggestions that strokes in people under the age of 30 were all caused by coronavirus, but that has since been completely disregarded and everything. So
I mean, it could have been. There's a chance, but I don't.
There's a very slim chance,
Yeah.
but I think if it had been you, for example, Jessica, that had it,
Then
someone who's got no pre-existing conditions, doesn't smoke, is quite fit and healthy, therefore it would be something to really seriously consider. But you were looking at not exactly the most healthy person, a heavy smoker at the time, and I have a pre-existing heart condition.
Yeah,
I have a systemic heart murmur, and it's just not a very good one.
Yeah.
It's not a good heart. It's a bit lazy. So, and my ventricles are out of time. So
So what was your stubborn
So yeah, so
habit?
my story, back to the actual point. So 29th of April, during COVID, 29th of April 2020, I was knackered. I was just tired. I'd woke up tired because the day before, and this is, I still blame this on my stroke. The day before was the 28th of April, which just so happens to be Jessica's birthday and my mother's birthday, right? So I'd run around like a blue ass fly.
Oh, get lost! Get lost!
I made you a fucking English breakfast thing, and my mother a
Yeah.
vegetarian breakfast, because one of you's vegetarian, one of you's not. And then I made you a special lunch, and my mother a special vegetarian lunch. And then I got a Chinese, and they didn't even send my tea. They forgot my tea when we bought that Chinese. I had to call them back and get mine. They sent
That's
yours
happened before as
from
well.
the same Chinese. I don't know why I keep on there. I paid for it, and they didn't even fucking send mine. Right? So as you can see, look at me now. Look how stressed I am, and it was 6 months ago. So the next day, I didn't feel very well when I woke up. I just felt a bit groggy, and I didn't go, oh, coronavirus. I just felt a bit fatigued, and I think a lot of it was the adrenaline of all the rush of just coming into lockdown and everything, and things looking like, oh, it could just be a really short period and everything, and started to wear off. And that first 4 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks happened by that point, and it was like, I just felt groggy, and it just got progressively worse throughout the day. And come about, I would say 2 or 3 o'clock, I was like, Jessica, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get up late, but I very rarely go to bed in the daytime. You know what I mean, I'm a night owl. I go to bed at like 3 in the morning, and then I'm up at 10.
That makes me feel sick.
Yeah, and so I went to bed, and I also wasn't hungry. I'd said I didn't want any tea, and that's normally alarm bells for
Yeah.
my mother and Jessica
Yeah.
when I've turned down free food. So yeah, I had a bit of a nap, and Jessica came and checked on me regularly and everything, and Mum came and checked on me at one point, because I believe you went and said something to her, didn't you? You spoke to Mum.
Well, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah,
what
because
happened?
I say there's still parts of that day I'm blank. I blank out. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
George went up, and like we say, I just thought, oh, he's just going for a nap, because you do
I do
regularly
like a nap.
So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me. I was working downstairs, and then I went upstairs and I checked on George, and that was when you said you didn't feel well at all. So I just thought, oh, maybe he's got a bug. But then it was when you said that you couldn't open your eyes.
Yeah.
The alarm bells definitely rung, that there was something not right, because when you can't open your eyes, you know there's something right. So I went down to Siobhan, and she'd made tea, and I said, Siobhan, there's something not right. There's something wrong with George. Anyway, bless your mum. That woman loves you, because
she
I have never seen Siobhan move so fast. That sounds like a real insult. It's not.
You slow
Siobhan.
bitch.
It's not. It was just like,
Love you,
literally, I told her, and like, it was straight away like,
Yeah.
boom.
I think
There's never usually much wrong with you apart from you moan all the time.
I'm all the time,
But
and I
we
do
know
have
then-
pre-existing conditions, but the thing is, I live with them.
Yeah,
So when something actually, if you like,
is
takes me
wrong.
down and gets me
Yeah.
to the point where I can't do something,
that's when
and that's
people-
always been like that in my life. You know what I mean? Like I cracked my head open when I was like 9 years old, and I was more upset that they wouldn't let me go out, continue to go out and play, than I was the fact that I was covered in my own blood.
Yeah,
So Mum obviously knew something was up.
Yeah, so Siobhan ran upstairs, and yeah, go on, you carry
Yeah,
on.
so we rang 111 because at this point we just thought it could be a bug, it could be something. And basically they said, you've got 2 options. Either we can send an ambulance out to you now, or you can someone can bring you into hospital in the next 20 minutes. Now, we don't live far from Manchester Royal. We live about a 10-minute drive away, so I was filtered into a car and driven off. Now, bear in mind, this is in COVID, the height of the first lockdown. So I'm at this point, I don't know what's wrong with me. We still don't know what's wrong with me. I'm then I can't see anything. I can't open my eyes. Like, I literally couldn't open my eyes. So my mum takes me to the hospital. You would kind of have to leave. You had to stay behind, didn't you, because of the way the hospital rules were and everything. Then I got to the hospital and then just got taken by some nurse. And Mum was told they'd contact her, and then funneled somewhere else. And then within minutes, I'm on a dolly, and I've got a monitor on. I've got 2 or 3 things in my arm. I've got the thing on my head, and just all of a sudden I was wired up. And at this point, I still couldn't open my eyes.
Yeah. So just on this point, sorry.
Other brands of soft drink are available.
Oh, for God's sake.
Not Spawn.
On this point, George, I had to help George down the stairs because he couldn't open his eyes. He had to wear his sunglasses, so I was helping him down. And this isn't to scare anyone at all, but when people hear mini stroke, they may consider that it's not that big of it was.
Yeah.
There was definitely something wrong, and that's not to scare anyone, that's to tell the realities of it.
It is fact.
So I helped him down the stairs, and obviously what was really hard for me was that I couldn't go with him. Which brings us on to COVID-19 and the times that we're living in. It is really difficult for people who are supporting those with any kind of illness, whether that be COVID-19 and they're having to go into intensive care or into hospital because of it, or whether that be any other disease or a stroke or anything. So I have ultimate respect for people who at this time aren't able to see loved ones, and that's really sad. So all I can say is that the reality for me was that I was really scared, and I was putting on a bit of a front, and I don't know if Siobhan was.
Yeah,
but
she was. She's a tough old bird.
I was putting on a front that I was okay, but the reality was that at the time I wasn't, because of the uncertainty of what the hell was going on. And all I can say to anyone who's in that situation is to tell people who may not be there in person, but ring people and tell people where you're at, because you need the support as much as anyone else needs the support, including the person who has the illness or the disease or whatever.
So I'm wired up. I'm on every form of monitor. I was on blood thinners, on warfarin, to thin my blood.
Yeah,
and
you've got very.
I've got custard. I've got treacle.
You've got the weird blood, haven't you?
I have.
The weird blood type.
Yeah, I can never remember what it is, but it is officially the rarest blood in the world. That's part of the problem. With the thick blood and then the crap heart, the combination ended in the stroke. So I was on blood thinners to thin that out, and they'd obviously, from me going in and seeing me, they knew what it was, because there was no even debate about what was going on. I then had a lumbar puncture, which is awful, because they need to see if, because sometimes strokes can be caused by aneurysms. So a lumbar puncture, which is a needle into the lower base of your spine, can check spinal fluid, can tell you whether there's a bleed on the brain and stuff like that. Luckily there wasn't. It was just a pure lack of blood flow. I came home early hours of that morning, so I could be in my own bed. And
yeah, George was communicating with Siobhan about what was going to happen, and was it an option? Didn't you have the option of staying in or coming home?
I did have the option of staying in and coming with this. I'd had everything done.
Yeah.
And they diagnosed me, and it was confirmed. And they basically said it was the principle of it, because they were still kind of learning how to deal with taking patients in on COVID and stuff at this point, and they'd obviously not passed the information on that I'd been dropped off by my parent, my mum. They didn't know I got it. So basically they were saying, if you live on your own, you can stay in overnight until you're better to go, but if you want to go home, there's someone to go home to with you, you can go home. And I was like, well, I've got my mum and my girlfriend to go home to, so I'd rather go home if that's the option. If I don't need to stay in and I can go home and be in my own bed, I'd rather do that.
It also frees up a bed. So that's what happened. He came home and I was so relieved. Not relieved, obviously it's not the best news, but I just was relieved that he was there. Do you know what I mean? It could have been worse.
Yeah.
So it's even though it's a horrible situation, it was always good to remember the positives,
Yeah.
if there are any, but somehow turning it into a positive. It's a horrible situation, but going, this could have been a lot worse. What are the signs? I think we should start with that, because if you are someone who's in the company of someone who could be having a stroke, if you've seen the advert,
It was the fast advert, but you know. So I think the simple thing is you look at speech.
Yeah.
Right. Speech is a big thing. Is their speech different? Is their speech slurred? You know, can they speak?
Yeah.
Right. You want to look at actions. You want to look at how they move. Now, one of the things I was told by a doctor friend of mine afterwards, and one of the nurses at the hospital, was that if I start getting the same kind of pain in my head, which could just be a headache, but was to do a thing where I obviously can't do in the car, but where I put my arm straight above my head and clamp my hands like that. And as long as I can keep doing that, I'm obviously not having the problem. Yeah. And actually, by putting your arms up, you're encouraging your heart to start pushing that blood back through. And then...
face.
Yeah, the face. I mean, look out for it, because now I still have slight... I mean, I know my face. I do, and I know what it looks like. And I have no control real over this eye now, including the eyebrow. It's this eyebrow that leads everything. This bit here is just... in the nicest possible way, dead. It's just I've got I've got very little control over it. It does its own thing, and it blinks on its own occasion, and just does its own thing when it wants to do it. This side of my mouth is still a little bit less responsive. Occasionally, a little bit of dribble just comes on out. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's nothing different from before.
I have, as you probably noticed, I do favour talking out of this side of my mouth because I don't have as much response in that side. And in general, this side of my body is just not as strong as it once was. It's getting better because, you know, I'm doing stuff to fix that. But it's just making sure, speak to them, make sure they can do actions, and, you know, look at their face. If you can see those three things, just fucking get on with it. Down 999, no questions asked. You think they're having a stroke. Because even if they're not in the end, it's better to find out.
Yeah.
Speech, face, and actions. Yeah. Sapphire.
George, as someone who knows,
Yes.
how do you know if you're having a stroke?
How
does it feel?
I don't think you ever really know if you're having a stroke. I think it's one of those things, but I could tell you how it felt. It was fire. It was burning fire. It's warm and cold all at the same time. And this is not to terrify anyone. This is just fact. It's like parts
like
of
you're doing a Shakespeare soliloquy.
It
was fire.
It was fire.
It was warm.
It was ice. It was the polar ice caps. No, it was. It was like your face is burning, and your head is it's falling apart, but then you're also cold, and it's horrible. And one of the things that one of the nurses were saying to me was that I was talking to them, shall we say, and I was saying stuff about my medical history. And then they were asking me the question again. So I was replying to them again. And they asked me the question again. And I'd say it, and they go, oh, finally. I'm going, I've just told you 3 times. And they go, no, you haven't. So, like, the communication between my head and my mouth wasn't working. So I was going, well, I've got a pre-existing heart condition. I've got high blood pressure. And my mouth actually wasn't saying anything. So it was quite interesting in that matter. But it's hot, cold, painful, and weird.
Also, even though it is a minute chance, strokes don't just happen in old people,
No.
as people and adverts and things suggest.
They're
George
higher
is
risk.
25.
Yeah, the higher risk. But I was 24 at the time.
Yeah.
I was
So
24
you
at
might
the
not
time. I
believe
had my
it.
25th birthday. Yeah,
But George is 25.
Still a child. I know. I look 40.
No, you don't.
That's what I
It's
am.
because you've not shaved your beard, your hair's really long, you've got a flat cap on.
Several nagging hours later.
Usually when his hair's cut and he's got no beard.
I look 12. That's why I have the
Yeah.
beard. If I have a moustache and long hair, I look 45.
Not like half your age.
When I shave it off, I look like a 12-year-old. So, Jessica, from the other side, to the other side. So, Jessica, from the other side of this, what's it like I know you had this little bit. What's it like being on the outside? I don't know, not on the outside, shall we say, but not being the person having the stroke.
Like I said previously, it is really scary. I think in the aftermath, like now, which is what, like 4 months down the line, 6 months down the line, I get really anxious about George, but that doesn't help that we're isolating separately now.
And
so
I'm
when
a
George
nutter.
tells me about his light sensitivity, which he will soon, he'll tell you in a minute, and the other bits, I do get anxious, and I think that's a totally normal thing to expect and to have. So it's difficult, but what I'm so grateful for is that George hasn't had another, and it could have been worse. But also allowing myself, especially at that time, to be upset and to be anxious and to be scared, because if I put that off, then I probably wouldn't be coping with it as well as I think I have, to be honest. I think I've dealt with it quite well, and I've got to give myself that credit.
There's that thing as well, is that you, as the person who had the stroke, you want to just get out and do things and everything. You don't always necessarily think what's best for you. You just want to do it, and that's what I was doing. But then you've got like people like Jessica and my mum and everything who have to deal with the kind of element of I couldn't get out of bed on my own and everything, and that becomes difficult for them, and them seeing me in a compromised position in that sense that I wasn't really myself. As Jessica says, my speech wasn't fantastic, and
like you couldn't get changed.
I couldn't.
At first,
I couldn't
on your own because you couldn't see for one. And
because I was like this, I was like this eye was completely closed, and this one was like that, just about open for about a week.
Yeah.
So it was a long time before I could actually do a lot of stuff on my own.
Yeah.
I have always been no fear. You know what I mean? I've always. My granddad Jack was a man of many wisdoms, but he always used to say, "Scars heal, time doesn't," and that was the kind of principle of just do it. If you get hurt, that heals. But if you don't do it, then you never get that time back.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of makes you realise that sometimes you have to take a step back and be more conscious about things and
grow up.
So I've had to become a bit more of an adult.
So, leading on from that, how are you now, and what have you done since in regards to the stroke?
So I've got to go. Well, I'm still waiting. Obviously, COVID is COVID, and that's changing everything. I've got to go back for some form of checkup at some point. The kind of thing with some of the still bit of paralysis stuff I've got, it either will go away or it won't. It's simple as that. I'm either stuck with it or it'll go away. Now, it has got better since we got it. I still notice it every day, and
I don't.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. But you kind of, if you really love that person, I find it endearing. I think it's cute.
But I notice it, and it does knock your self-confidence a bit, because you look at yourself and you think you're 25, half your face doesn't work. It is a little bit confidence shaking in that sense and everything. But it is what it is. The big problem, and the thing that annoys me more than anything, is one of the complications I've had is I've gained extreme light sensitivity in certain situations. And as a sound and feckin' lighting engineer, oh my God, it's become a problem. So, I mean, I've got special glasses now, and they affect the UV filter and all that kind of stuff, and blue light filter, and they really do help, and they cut out a lot of the bad crap. But, oh my God, that's a pain in the backside. It's like I love a nighttime walk, and I have to wear my sunglasses at nighttime because you get idiots, and that's all you can be described as if it's you who's watching, who have those horrible blue xenon lights, whatever they're called, on the car, and go down a well-lit street with them on fog and full beam like they're driving through the Zambezi.
Anyway.
Stop blinding me, it hurts.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's affected FaceTime. We often FaceTime, and we still do that now, but there's times where George, even me to be honest, I've been getting headaches at night, but I think it's because I'm staying inside. George will often not be able to FaceTime because
my eyes
of the light sensitivity. You find that at like low sun time. So during the winter, we obviously have low sun during the day. or sunrise, sunset, that's when you get really bad.
Oh, it's awful.
In sunshine that's not low,
I'm all right.
you're fine.
Yeah.
It's like, and also, I think a tip is that you can change your phone so it's warmer. So
Yes,
there's not as
you
much
can.
blue light.
Some call them blue light filters. Some Android phones call them eye care, and I believe iPhone calls it night mode or something like that.
Yeah.
And basically what it does is it changes it to more of a warmer colour. It gives everything a bit of a yellowy hue, but it takes a lot of the blue light out there, which is really good for eye care for even people who don't get light sensitivity. Do it.
Yeah, do it.
I believe you can set it on a timer on most phones, so do it, set it up, so when it's later on, it takes some of that out. It's fantastic.
And the blue light as well doesn't
Really
help
bad
with
for you.
being addicted to your phone.
Yeah, it's
or
really bad
like
for you.
before you sleep, if it's that's all that's good. You shouldn't be looking at your phone before you sleep anyway.
Well, that's one of the problems with insomnia these days, because people look at blue
Yeah.
light before they go to sleep, and blue light is fake sunlight basically, and that's the problem. Their bodies think, oh, it's daytime.
So just to round up, this may be a random video for you, it may have been an educational source for you, or it may have helped someone who is going through a similar situation. If it has, I'm really happy that it has. And I think the main things to remember is at this time anyway, regardless of illnesses or whatever, be kind to yourself, whether you're this person or whether you're that person, the person with the illness or not. Be kind to yourself and kind of forgive yourself. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling mentally? I think that's really important if you're going through something difficult right now, and at this time in general. And we've given a few tips there as well for people who are in a similar situation. So I really hope that it's helped. But I want to say thank you so much for watching. This was quite a serious video, but I have got many other videos with me and George, and just me on my own, that are a bit more light-hearted and something that you may want to watch during this time as a form of entertainment. And yeah, remember to subscribe if you haven't. Give us a like if this was informative and if this may have helped you. I know it's not the video for everyone, so totally fine. And yeah, if you are comfortable leaving a comment about what you thought about this video, or if you've had similar experiences, or you want to leave me a DM on Instagram, anything like that, I am more than willing to speak to you, and I'm sure George is as well. So thank you so much for watching this video.
Thank you.
Really enjoy it. And both of us, I'm not sure yet, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, stay
Bye.
safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face.
And George.